We depend on you, Father. We trust in you. Even though some trust in chariots and some trust in horses, we trust in thee, O Lord. But thou art our restorer and thou art our preserver. He preserved life. So we thank you, Father. Send us your Holy Spirit so that we may hear all that you have to impart to us this morning to give us a victorious lifestyle. For Christ's sake, we ask this blessing. Amen. Amen. Victorious lifestyle. How do we have victory in our lives? How do we overcome all these things of the earth, all the things of the world, all the things that beset us, knowing that God is our Father, He is the ruler, He is the sustainer of all life and all things on the earth. And as the song goes, even though the wrongs seem oh so strong, God is the ruler yet, because He lives. He lives. He never stayed in that tomb for longer than his father allowed him to stay in that tomb. He stayed in that tomb on the Sabbath day. For the Sabbath is a day of rest, a day of peace and restoration. And the Father called out Jesus from that tomb when the rest time was up. So now we are on the first day of the week. Rest time is over, and we are working in the vineyard for the Lord. I come this morning to teach you, to show you the way a lifestyle that is victorious is conducted. First of all, we trust in the Lord. We eat something that is nutritious for our bodies, the bodies that He created. He gives us nutrition. He gives us a new start for the day so that we are pumped up and ready and full of vitality and ready to hear and be guided by His every word that we heard early in the morning or last night. We exercise all our faith and trust in Him, and we pump our arms up in the air, out to the side, we bend over and we stretch and we exercise. Not only faith, but our physical bodies also. And we drink water. Water is life. We have life, and we have it more abundantly if we trust in God's way and we do all the things necessary to sustain and be victorious in this day, one day at a time. And we start off now with this. We go into the sun and we take the rays of the sun into our bodies. Our bodies, things in our bodies are transformed into hormones that make our bodies strong and grow and function the way God designed our bodies to go. We have temperance in all things. Not too much sun, it's not good. Not too much food, it's not good. Not too much water, it's not good. Just enough. So temperance is what we consider. And we take some deep breaths. We get that air that God breathed into our nostrils when we were born. We were born from the earth when God created us, and He breathed His breath into our nostrils, and man became a living soul. If you stop breathing, that's it. No more breath, no more life. And God keeps that breath for us until He's ready to restore us at the resurrection. And then we go through all our chores for the day, and then we rest. We rest because it is while we are resting, we are regaining strength, vitality, and everything is being repaired in our bodies. So we rest. And while we rest, before we do, we trust God. We thank Him for the day. We thank Him for everything that He has done. And we trust that He will keep us and give us sleep, because He gives His beloved sleep. And when we go into deep sleep is when we are restoring all the things in our bodies, all the things that we did, all the things that we learned, all the new ideas and the new things that we learned for the day. We meditate on those things, and we come up the next day out of sleep, restored and rested and stronger than we were the day before. And so we go, a victorious lifestyle. This is the way that God planned for us, for men to live. So Lord, today let us think on these things. Let us hold fast to these things, and let us educate, for because of lack of knowledge, my people perish. So that we perish not, let us learn of the Lord, trust in Him, read His word, and honor him. And when we honor him, we give blessings to ourselves. This is our prayer. Father, that you keep us, sustain us today for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen. I want to thank Sister Harrison for her devotion. I want to say this morning for the Word to the Wise segment that we are experiencing some really gruesome murders. But crime is scientific. Crime, there's a lot of things that come together. You know, we have this song that says that poverty is no excuse for crime. That person is wrong and really ignorant about how crime function. And I'll give you some examples right now. As far as these violent crimes are concerned, shooting and chopping and stealing and home invasion and things like that, you will never see people who are rich, who are fairly okay doing things like that. You will not find that. Why? You will not find that's happening. I don't know why I was saying it. You will not find that happening. You'll find people who commit crime, those sort of crime. I'm not talking about white collar crime now. I'm talking about these brutal things where people having their neck chopped off and things like that. You'll find even if there's a rich person behind it, the poor will be the one to be doing that. So there is a correlation between poverty and crime, but that's not the only correlation. There's a lot of things in that socialization process. I'm saying this to get those who continue to think that a state of emergency, like hanging and things like that, will solve the problem. It is science. We need to observe who are the ones who are more likely right now to commit crime. And that is the basis. We need to look at the demographics that are before us. And looking at those demographics, we can begin our process in understanding why it is being done. Because the only how you can treat with crime is if you understand why. You can't find a solution for anything without knowing why. And just thinking that these folks are wicked and bad and that's the reason why they are doing it, you're wrong. There's more than that. Yes, I will accept that what you are saying, wickedness and badness and things like that, because I'm in this young lady with the 2 children in a water tank. Some wickedness went on. Either if she climbing there for herself, those in the community had to be very careless and looking after each other. So we know there was some human factor there. But the fact remains that to understand why that happened is not simply by saying she's bad. It is a scientific thing. And I want us to start to think scientific. You know, we operate in this country in a science-free zone and becoming more and more rampant. We just believe that anything we say or anything that we believe is true. And it is affecting every aspect of our lives. And this morning I want to say, let us pull back. Let us ask those who are in charge of us to take a scientific approach. It will be longer. So I guess taking 500 million and throwing it into the police and the army and things like that may seem more as a way to get things done. But that's not the way. That money should be spent on science, should be spent on investigation, should be spent on observing and interpreting and validating. That money should be spent on breaking down the things into small parts and looking at it from different angles and seeing who, why, what, when. That's where that money should be spent. I guess while you are doing that, they have a spike, because if you are not strengthening the policing, it will happen. But I'm saying in the long run, we can be like those Scandinavian countries where 13 million people and like in Sweden and 440 people die murdered for the year in a population of 13 million and in Iceland and these areas. We can be like that, but we must go this scientific way. I want to thank those who have been contributing to the program. If we have the time at the end, I will go back into that because I don't want you to miss what I have for you this morning. So if at the end we are still here, then we'll deal with those. But there are people who have kept me on there. And I want you to know that I'm truly thankful. If I don't call your name, I'm thankful. This morning, I'm dealing with the subject, the age of reason. And this is a historical fact, a historical suggestion that you may not have heard, but I guess you have heard of the age of enlightenment. But the age of reason and the age of enlightenment is one the same thing. But I want to deal with the age of enlightenment, with the age of reason then, and see how we have found ourselves in that very same position. And let us understand this danger amiss. I love prophecy. This is where we are now. We are, time we call now is the age of reason. Now, historically, the age of reason refers to a period in history where countries such as France and England showed a willingness and a disregard for the theological approach of understanding the social world, rejecting the church and its teaching and embracing a secular thinking, a secular approach to life. This was tried. This was done. It occurred in the 18th century. The age was a period that human reason was used to question things such as religion, philosophy, social life, and other things in determining what was logical and what was not. This age is generally regarded as the beginning, as the beginning of modern philosophy and the end of the medieval approach to life. And when you think about it, when you read it, it sounds very wise to do, but the result must always accompany what was tried. The age of reason came after the Renaissance. That this period, the age of enlightenment, prior to this period, logical people, for fear of being labeled as heretics or even being burned at the stake, could not question some belief, especially religion. Religion was in charge. That's why Galileo, 5 or 6 years ago, they had to pardon Galileo because Galileo said that the world was wrong and it moved, it spins on an axis, and the church said that was heresy. And they call Galileo in this inquisition. And when Galileo recognized that the church had the power, or so they thought, so they still think, had the power to keep him out of heaven, he decided to say what they said. And they asked him, is the world wrong? And does it spin on an axis? Galileo said, no, it is not wrong, and it doesn't turn. And as he walked back out the hall, a soldier heard him. He was so convicted in his own heart that a soldier heard him saying, it does move. It does move. Took him back into the hall, and this time he said that it moves, and they cast him into prison. They banish him. How do they call it again? They excommunicated him. And Galileo was in his mind and the mind of the people. He could not have gotten to heaven because the church, the Universal Church, the Catholic Church, had disbanded him. 5 years ago, as we now come to know the world is wrong and it spins on an axis and all that, Pope John Paul was able to free him. But I want to say to you this morning, no man can get you into heaven. Heaven is a place that you go with your personal relationship with the man Jesus Christ. He's the one who absolves you from sin. He's the one who stands as a mediator for you. He's the one who you need to rely on for all your goodness and all the mercy that you can get is come from Jesus. The age of enlightenment or the age of reason was a movement in the 18th century that was based on knowledge and philosophy. Enlightenment included ideas that centered on reason as the main source of legitimate authority and advocate for the ideas such as liberty, tolerance, separation of church and state, constitutional governance, and fraternity. This period of enlightenment was associated with the redefinition of European communication, politics, and the art. The movement was also characterized by individuals known as thinkers. And I want you to keep that now, because when we come to an end, I will show you how we are operating in the very age of reason as it was then in the 18th and 17th century. I will show you how we operate in it, and then you will understand that there are some consequences that they paid then that we will pay now. The Enlightenment movement is one of the most important in history, as it spurred other movements, such as the Romanticism movement in the 19th century. The movement can be traced back to 17th century Europe, when Galileo, as I spoke about, Isaac Newton, John Locke, among others, were making discoveries which altered the theological beliefs and doctrines of the time. While prior beliefs and artistic expressions were most often inspired by theology and mythical beliefs, the Enlightenment movement believed that knowledge was most accurately obtained through accumulated experiences and experiments, through man's own thoughts and reason. And we still have some of that now. We still have that now. There's a pushback on that also now, to the detriment of us also. While enlightenment is used to define the movement which spread all over Europe, individual European countries had their unique variations and movements. The movement of enlightenment is said to have occurred in 3 distinct stages, with key figures during each stage. These stages include the early Enlightenment period, the high Enlightenment period, and the late Enlightenment period. Those were the period of Isaac Newton, John Locke at first, and then Prussia's Frederick the Great, and then we came to the revolution with Napoleon, and we have come to the place where reason has become the order of the day. When death of truth and religion always accompanies man's view of enlightenment. Anytime someone says that they're enlightened, you recognize religion is the first thing they throw out. Philosophy defines this concept as the ability to make a decision and conclusion without the use of emotion, or God for that matter. In the age of reason, this was crucial to humankind. Logical humankind deemed things such as miracles and religious rite as mere superstition. Instead, through reason, humanity's new code of belief became the earth and nature. I want you to follow me this morning. I'm going to show you a period of our time that was devastating and dark for the earth, and show you that we are living again through that said period. As stated earlier, the age of reason came with humankind questioning every belief and way of life, including the dominant Christianity. This was a time where the church determined everything scientific, and everyone in disagreement was a heretic. From a Christian perspective, this was a period where many people attacked the religion in the guise of logical questioning. In addition, Christians deemed it a period where people came out and openly reject God. And all of this teaching, instead of worshiping and fearing the one true God, humanity began the worship of new gods as a clear thinking intellect, a thinking being, a being of reason. So once humanity begins seeing it as reason, the whole issue of God went out the window. In medieval times, people learn on the extreme that religion was absolute and that questioning it was wrong. In the age of reason, the other extreme humanity embraced was the ridiculousness of religion and the perfection of humankind. Any gray areas in between the 2 extremes was completely ignored. Humankind believed that nature and everything around him was enough to know God if he exists. And this is the same thing that is happening today. You may not recognize it, but today we are like that today in dealing with what is true and what is not true. We are into what the mind says, what we think. And this is what the whole problem we are having today. I'm having a little problem with my system here. Let me get it on the one. You get it right, don't worry. All right, you get it right. All right. The age of reason, as stated earlier, the age of reason came with humankind questioning every belief. I cover that. And the thought of man was the most powerful thing that there is. The period also saw the rise of philosophies and critical thinkers such as Descartes and Baruch Spinoza, and who had some interesting thoughts on religion. Descartes introduced a form of thinking known as dualism, which states that man and God are two distinct beings. Dualism advocates that humankind represent nature, while God represents the mind. Spinoza came up with a form of thinking known as pantheism, which states that the universe and God are all one. Pantheism does not believe that God was merely a substance with an uncountable number of qualities. In addition, and friends, I want you to follow me because when I switch back to our time, if you didn't get this time right, you wouldn't understand a thing that I'm saying. And I will be switching back to our time. Pantheism also believed that God was merely a substance with an uncountable number of qualities. In addition to these two philosophies, there was another one known as deism. Deism is a belief that there is a supreme being in the universe who mysteriously and beyond the reach of humanity. You know that song by Bette Midler, From a Distance, God is watching us. From a distance, that is deism, that God has created the planet. And from a distance, we are doing what we want here because God has no input into what is happening. That is false. God is intimate with his creation. He's intimate with you and I. He looks after us. He feels our pain. He protects us from what is happening. God is close to us, very close to us. Unlike other forms of religion, where God is perceived as being the intervene in the running of the universe, they believe that God let the universe run to itself. That's what I explained yesterday. The run of the universe is under the guidance of laws that can be seen through reason and in nature. But what really drove the blood of the period of reason was the French Revolution. With all these ideas of God, the French Revolution set the stage for blood. The French Revolution had general causes common to all the revolution of the West at the end of the 18th century, and particularly caused to explain, if this thing work out, it will be so good for me. Getting some trouble with my set today. I don't know why you don't do me this. Let me see if it'll help. Give me a minute here. Not okay. The French Revolution had generally, when I'm seeing having real problems, but we'll get it right. Don't worry. Don't worry. The French Revolution had general causes common to all revolution of the West at the end of the 18th century, and particular cause that explained why it was by far the most violent and the most universally significant of these revolutions. The first of the general causes was the social structure of the West. The feudal regime had been weakened step by step. And friends, but the reason why we are still speaking about the French Revolution is because of how it impacted the entire world. The increasingly numerous and prosperous elite of wealthy commoners, merchants, manufacturers, and professionals, often called the bourgeoisie, aspired to political power in those countries where it did not already possess it. The peasants, many of whom owned land, had attained an improved standard of living and education and wanted to get rid of the last vestiges of feudalism so as to acquire the full rights of land ownership and to be free to increase their holding. Furthermore, about 1730, higher standards of living had reduced the mortality rate among others considerably. And friend, as I speak of the mortality rate, I hope you are recognizing all over the world. This week, China have raised their retirement age for women to 58 and to men to 63, because what is happening across the world is people are living longer. And because people are living longer, it's becoming more difficult for the young population to pay for pensions and these things for the old. The young minding the old is becoming more difficult in countries. That's why even in Trinidad, they are toying with the idea of 65 years. So a large population created a greater demand for food and consumer goods. The discovery of new gold mines in Brazil had led to a general rise in prices throughout the West. From 1730, including a prosperous economic situation. From 1770, this strength slackened, and economic crisis provoking alarm and even revolt became frequent. Arguments for social reform began to advance the philosophies. Intellectuals whose writing inspired these arguments were certainly influenced by 17th century theories such as René Descartes, Benedict Spinoza, and John Locke. But they came to very different conclusions about political, social, and economic matters. And friend, I want to say to you, as we come to the end of time, the scholars, the churchmen, and those who have influence, and I'll come to influencers in a while, they will have a different mode to solve the world problem. When that happens, the world will look to one individual, the most respected individual morally, socially, and economically for the answers to solve the problem. But the same problem of the French Revolution will visit us very soon. Just listen to me this morning. Let's listen to me this morning. A revolution seemed necessary to apply the ideas of Montesquieu, Voltaire, or Jean-Jacques Rousseau. This enlightenment was spread among the educated class by many of the societies of thought that were founded at the time. Masonic lodges, agricultural societies, and reading rooms. Hence, in a nutshell, the peasant destroyed the priests. The peasant rose up, against the masses, and the church role was challenged, and later it was violently destroyed. Priests, deacons, and prelates were killed, and their blood ran down the streets into gutters. This was the French Revolution. A large statue of a vile woman was erected and called the Goddess of Reason. During this goddess period, moral decadence was the order of the day. Rape and orgies and drunkenness and fetting and revelry and mayhem brought France to her knees until the country relented and returned to religion. And what they did, they sent that goddess of reason. America, the Pilgrims' fathers were in Philadelphia at that time. The boats were coming in, the Mayflower. And what France did, they took that goddess of reason and they sent that goddess of reason all the way to the United States. And there she sits in the harbor. There she sits in the harbor. And everything that has happened during the French Revolution is happening in the States and in Western countries. The goddess of reason, they call her the goddess of liberty, the Statue of Liberty, was sent from France to America. What were the prominent features surrounding the Age of Reason and the French Revolution? One, aristocrats, elites, the rich and powerful emaciated the society. They took what they want. They build houses, buy fancy cars, exploit the workers. This was happening as a prelude to the French Revolution. Two, the view of the church was prominent and dictated the social value system. The church decided what was science. The church, and these are contradictories, and I'm dealing with real contradictions here, you know, because while the church was doing that, the very church was the one that was persecuted. The rise of the thinkers and influencers as Descartes and Spinoza, they came to be, and John Locke and all these fancy thinkers began to write and influence the people to think against the church, to think against what is God, to think against this traditional society. The people started choosing leaders and did not conform with the tradition. They chose leaders to their own thinking. That's why in America, a man could be charged for rape. He could charge, known to lost case for racism. He can be a felon. He can be a con artist. He can be a constant liar. And still, millions of people are still following him. This is what was happening in the French Revolution as they chose leaders to their own liking. A denial of the known for the unknown without trying to find out what was known or accept what was known. They went into the unknown. We have seen that with the COVID, and we'll come to that later. That people rather to reject science and hold on to conspiracies. We have seen that. A denial of God and religious teaching. This was happening, and these were all the prelude to the French Revolution. And then what happened? When all these things had existed, they had the killing of those who claimed to represent God. So the priests and the priests were killed. The head, Robert Guillotine was just, Industrial Revolution was just beginning. And he made this blade to pop iron. And they used that very blade to cut off the heads of men. You may have heard the theory many times. Heads will roll. That's what they were speaking about. As this guillotine dropped on the heads of men, those heads will pop and pitch and roll, and people will gamble. They will say that this head will roll here, and this one will roll, and they'll press money down to the nearest that head rolled to. The killing men became sport. That period was said to be an enlightened era, even though it was covered with moral darkness. We are now experiencing all these features save the bloodshed which is to come. But all the contradiction of that society is present with us today. We are indeed in a period that can be termed the age of reason. Friend, hear me this morning. Lawrence Katz, the Elizabeth Allison Professor of Economics in Harvard's Faculty of Arts and Sciences, says the most damaging aspect of the gap between the top 1% of Americans and everyone else involved the increasing economic and political power that the very rich wield over the society, along with a growing education divide and escalating social segregation in which the elites have lived in literal and figuratively economic gated communities. That's what is happening. The rich continue to live in fancy areas. They continue to live and prosper. And the education, the gap is growing wider. And people are becoming poorer as countries become more wealthy. If the rate of economic mobility, says Lawrence, the ability of people to improve their economic stations was higher, our growing income disparity may not be such a problem. Because he's saying, look at the banks, for instance. The banks will talk about all kind of 700 million in profits, but they have workers working for $6,000. They have workers who working, barely making it, but they are reporting 700 and something million dollars. Look at all these big companies reporting all $100 million in profit, but they have workers who eking out a living. And these are the realities, because the shareholders are also the rich people. These are the realities that has created such a banal system. These are the realities that have realities of suffering that has created crime and despair. These are the realities of it. But what we have been seeing is rising inequality with stagnant mobility, which means that the consequence of where you start out, whether it is a poor neighborhood, whether it is from a single-parent household, and more consequential today, are more consequential today than in the past. Wherever you live tells a story. It tells a story. If you don't have to say to me, you're well packaged. You don't have to say to me that. You can simply say to me where you live, and I have a fair idea of your existence. So those who have lived together, so they do not see the cries of the poor. They do not hear the suffering that is all around them. They may see someone with a cardboard in their hand on the street and a beggar at the mall, but the extent of the suffering is not seen by the masses, because those who have live in areas where they live together. And this was indeed happening as a prelude to the age of reason. This is what exactly caused the French Revolution. It's the age of reason all over again. The contradiction of the age of reason and the contradiction of today's society are similar. The church was both the leader of moral values and the victim of an overthrow. That happened. This is exactly what caused the French Revolution. It's the age of reason all over again. In today's world where social values and cultural norms are constantly evolving, the importance and the impact of Christian values cannot be understated. Christian values, which are rooted in the principle and teaching of Christianity and Christ, have been the foundation of many societies throughout the world, throughout history, and continue to play a significant role in shaping our modern world. So if you are attacking Christian values, you are attacking the very society. You are attacking the livelihood of the society. You are attacking everything that is good about the society when you attack the church. As we navigate various social and ethical issues, it is essential to understand and appreciate the significance of Christian values and their impact on individuals and a society as a whole. It must be understood. We must understand that what is keeping the society is religious values. And those who are enamored with religious values, they commit less crime, they do less moral decadence attend them, they give less problem for the police. It's a whole thing. Christian values are rooted in the teaching of Jesus Christ and the principles outlined in the Bible. These values provide a moral framework for individuals and society to live by, emphasizing love, compassion, forgiveness, humility, that those Scandinavian countries who are less religious today than they have been, they were built on a foundation of Christianity. They are post-Christian societies. So the laws are governed by Christian values. They are very sameness in the outlook. And because of that sameness and coming through a post-Christian narrative, you have less crime and less decadence and less moral decadence in the society. But I'm saying this did not happen in France, which ushered in the age of reason. As we navigate, central to Christian value is the belief in the sanctity of human life and the worth of every individual, regardless of their background, status, or belief. The principle underscores the importance of treating everyone with respect and dignity, embracing diversity, and promoting equality. Other Christian values include honesty, integrity, selflessness, generosity. These values shape personal character and behavior, guiding individuals to act with humility and compassion and empathy towards each other. While Christian values have been a part of society for centuries, their relevance and integration in modern society remain a topic of debate. One challenge lies in reconciling Christian values with secular norms and the values of determining how to apply these principles in diverse and complex contexts. It is obvious, from abortion to the death penalty, the church has stamped its principles on the laws and structure of the society. While at the same time, the society is rejecting these religious laws and structures. We need to be mindful of our history, because surely history is repeating itself, and it will not repeat itself in part, it will repeat itself in a totality. During the Age of Reason, or the Age of Enlightenment, the likes of Descartes, Locke, etc., moved the thinking of the society away from traditional values and create an eventual storm of the French Revolution. Today, we have the rise of influencers, we call them. Social influencers, also called micro-influencers or digital celebrities, are influential in non-traditional celebrities. But what they are doing, they are influencing people away from God. They are new on the marketplace. And these influential are playing the same role that Descartes and Spinoza and John Locke and these guys played, Voltaire, and these guys played back then. And because we are more a digital market, they operate on those platforms. And those are the platforms that the new people or the young people are operating on also. Social influence have gained popularity primarily among the young adults who led increasingly digital lives. For example, in the Netherlands, the use of social media platforms like Instagram and YouTube continue to rise among young people between the age of 15 and 19. Those are our tomorrow. Given this increased role of social media in young adult life, it is not surprising that social influencers have become the new digital celebrities that young people look up to, and they are the ones who are inspiring young people. Consequently, social influencers become the new opinion leaders and serve as brand ambassadors for product and services in the marketplace. Nike and iPhone and Samsung, and they are going to these influencers who govern people's lives, who speak about Taylor Swift and Beyonce and where they will be, who speak about abortion and speak about homosexual. One can love who they want to love, and they are spreading that. And they are also spreading the idea that the church is old-fashioned. We are coming home, friends, to the things in the age of reason that created the problem. Due to the considerable following on social media platforms, they reach thousands to millions of potential people. Although research shows, and I want you to listen to me, although research shows that social influencers are effective endorsers more so than traditional celebrity endorsers, no study has analyzed the motivation young people have for following these digital celebrities. Added to these influencers who are rewriting the moral platforms are conspiracy theorists. So we are in a world that is spinning into darkness, where truth is not important, where science is no longer treated as science, but people believe what feels good and sounds good to them. Social media and internet are filled with conspiracy theories. These theories range from highly implausible in light of logic or scientific knowledge. They range from that to plausible, to something that can be. But conspiracy theories are commonly defined as explanatory beliefs about a group of actors that collude in secret to reach malevolent goals. So everything in the mind of a conspiracy, it's a disease, I want you to know. It's a disease. When you're hooked on conspiracy theories, if you believe one, you tend to believe all because it's a emotional string it pulls on. And we have that. And it's running wild. The potential impact and breadth of conspiracy theories are underscored in 2016 when Donald Trump was elected US president despite propagating a range of highly implausible conspiracy theories throughout the campaign. And he's doing it again. While many just dismiss conspiracy theories, it is not wise to do so. It is not wise. It is the most dangerous phenomenon that we are looking at. Millions have lost their lives because of it. And you say, where? During the COVID period, millions have lost their lives because they chose to listen to these nonsense. And to them, it's not nonsense. To them, it's real. It's real. We are at a place where immorality is being normalized. There are campaigns in earnest for the legalization of marijuana, prostitution, abortion on demand, homosexual marriage, and wanton sex. Now, I want to go that because you feel I'm on the extreme. When they speak of legalization of marijuana, I am saying that if you have alcohol, rum, whiskey, Grey Goose, all these things as normal, then you have to give me a better reason for you want to legislate against marijuana. My view is all should be legislated against. Prostitution, abortion on demand, and I'm saying, I told a friend, I've never met someone who is pro-life. I believe they are out there. But most of these people say they are pro-life. They will turn around and say, but except for the life of the mother, I have no, but then you are pro-choice. Just you may not be extreme as a man who will say do it anytime, but you are pro-choice. So the issue of demonizing and thinking abortion is something that we need to grapple with. But this is the world we are living in. Folks are trying to normalize abortion. You have sex and you're pregnant, have an abortion. That is a no-no. That is vile. But folks are trying to normalize that also. Normalize the whole idea of homosexuality and homosexual marriage and all this wanton sex. If it feels good, do it. I meet you today, we're having sex later in the evening. Or to normalize all that as normal life. This is happening, and this is similar to what happened during the age of reason. This was a situation, friend. Where it is going, where did it go? It led to the emaciation of truth, the denial of God, and the murder of those who call themselves Christians. We are walking that same pathway. All right. I want to open the line to anyone who want to talk to me as I continue. I have so much to say. But I know there's somebody who want to talk to me. Alex, I'm not hearing you, eh? I don't know if he's talking to me, but I'm not hearing him. And I will continue. There's a movement of Christian nationalism that is growing in the United States, influencing Christians across the world, even here in Trinidad. They ride under the banner of anti-LGBTQ and anti-abortion, and they are calling all people, Muslim, Hindus, Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Methodists, to join with them. To join with them. But I'm not hearing. But if you open the lines, I don't know how I will know if somebody is talking because I'm not hearing. So you can open the lines, Alex, and if they come in, find a way to signal me. All right, let me continue. Okay, we don't take any calls. Okay, thanks. Many academic studies, government reports, and news media articles have analyzed the role of religion or interpretation of religious concept and scripture in radicalizing Muslims and mobilizing the wage of holy war against the enemies around the globe. But I want to say to you, it's the same thing that is happening in the Christian nationalism, the far-right Christian group. And they are doing it by how they are doing it is by no darkroom book. It's by placing before the people a rage of anti-LGBTQ and anti-abortion. And Christians are joining that. Christians are even praising Putin, who is killing people, who invade a man's country, take over 1/5 of it, and killing people, throwing bombs in houses, because he's speaking against LGBTQ. Christians, even Seventh-day Adventist Christians, are accepting him. In America, all these Christian rights groups accept Russia over Ukraine because Putin is speaking about anti-LGBTQ. They accept Orban in Hungary, a despot. They accept despots all across the world. All those despots in Africa who are corrupt and who deny religion and abuse women because they speak against LGBTQ. There are Christians in my church who will post their views on Facebook and different parts of the internet praising these despots because they speak against LGBTQ issues and abortion. This is where we are. And what is happening? Much like Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, violent right-wing extremists are rising up all over Europe and in America. They refer to themselves as soldiers of God, white supremacists, sovereign citizens, militia extremists, and violent anti-abortion adherents use religious concept and scripture to justify murder. And this is what's going to happen. We must understand that we are in the age of reason where Christians who stood up for righteousness were killed. But the difference this time, the killers will be Christians. It should not be misconstrued as having a sort of Christianity. Rather, it represents an exploration of the links between violent right-wing extremists and the exploitation of Christianity and other religions. As I said before, they are using LGBTQ, anti-LGBTQ, and anti-abortion as the umbrella to draw all people, all religious people in for that last attack upon God and things that are of God. That is where we are. We are living in a time when every aspect of the age of reason that led to the French Revolution are with us today. Everything. Where the whole idea where we accept the unknown and reject the known is happening through conspiracy theories. And it cannot be left to itself. Institution, especially religious institution. I saw the Michigan Conference of Seventh-day Adventists thrown out a minister. And I'm listening to some ministers talking, and finally they're in support of the minister who was thrown out. But he was thrown because he was anti-science. Anti-science, and he brought his show on the road. All he can do is destroy and create problems in any institution. An institution must act against these anti-science people who are creating havoc. And as we get closer to the end, doubt will prevail. It will prevail so much that people will be difficult for people to accept the truth. And that's what it's all about. In the age of reason, none of them knew what was true. All they knew is that you have a mind, you have the reason. Descartes and René Descartes and Spinoza said to them, you have your own mind. You can think for yourself. And this is what's happening. If I says man don't have his own mind, we are guided. Everything we do, we learn. I learned to wear clothing. That's why I have on a shirt and pants and things with you this morning. I learned that. That had not been my mind telling me to do that. I learned that. I learned to speak. Speaking to you in accent, a Trinidad accent. I learned that. I learned that breakfast is good and lunch is good and water is good. I learned that. So when we say, well, man have his mind of his own, it goes contrary to God. When the Ethiopian eunuch asked Philip, how would I know? Unless there's someone to teach me. It is part of the principle of doing what is right. And I'm saying to you, we are at the stage of the age of reason. The only thing that is missing is the violence and the blood that ran through France as if it was water through a river. And that is coming. All these issues of guns that these right-wingers want to have and want to kill for their guns and speaking about guns and all over the world, every now and then, some right-wing person stab a policeman, shoot somebody somewhere in France. It keeps happening all over the world. It's going to come home eventually to us here in Trinidad. I want to say to you, adultery and fornication are more pervasive than LGBTQ+A and abortion. And they are promoted more outwardly in songs, movies, lifestyle of the rich and famous, on billboards, advertisement, in greater measure than LGBTQ. Yet the Christians are not up in arms the same way. This is because the motive is not wrongdoing. That is why we are up against LGBTQ, not because our motives are against wrongdoing. Because if our motives was against wrongdoing, we would have been up in arms against fornication and adultery and lying the same way. It's not our motives. Friends, don't be fooled. We are living at a time where all the issues that led to the age of reason and the French Revolution are with us, but only on a larger scale. Don't fool yourself. It will happen to us also. I want to thank you all for listening this morning. And for those who like to support the program, I hope you do. You can send your funds to First Citizen Bank, TT Limited, the account number 1450203, or RBC Limited. The account is 1-00791-703-24555. I'll say that one again, so that one is long. 1-000-791-703-24555. And until we meet again next week, I want to say thank you, Alex. Thank you very much for being there. We make sure next week we fix what is causing us the problem. But until that, may blessing be upon you and your family, and may the good God continue to guide you in everything that you do. I may not hear you, so I will say Maranatha. Goodbye and goodbye to everyone.